In today's episode of Today in World War II, February 5th, the Allies decide to invade Sweden and seize the iron ore mines. A U-boat was destroyed for the very first time in the war by a lone destroyer. The Brits finally catch up to the retreating Italians in Libya and stop their retreat. A Marine general in the South Pacific wins the Medal of Honor. A U.S. submarine lands 45 tons worth of supplies to Filipino guerrillas, and Americans were finally freed from Japanese captivity in Manila on this day. Let's get started. Okay, so on February 5th, 1940, the Allies, at this time of the war, the Allies meant France and Britain. They met in Paris and they were trying to decide how they were going to handle the most pressing issue of the war so far, which was the fact that Sweden, although ostensibly neutral, was still sending a poop load of iron ore from their mines in northern Sweden, via the Norwegian coastal waters to Germany, which was using that to, make steel, which, produced all of their weapons, right? You got to have steel in modern warfare. And so they decided that they were going to use aid to Finland against the Soviet Union as a pretext to send two British divisions via Narvik, the most northern Norwegian port, and they were going to uh, completely disregard Norwegian neutrality and Swedish neutrality, and just walk through and say we're going to help Finland, poor Finland, from those Soviet monsters. And oh, by the way, we're going to make a little side trip here, and we're going to stop, and we're going to invade Sweden and take over their iron ore. you know. Um, Doubt they probably would have ever made it to Finland. What can I say? If if you really want to understand what's going on in Ukraine and all the dynamics that are going on there, w- study the Winter War and what happened with Finland and how cynical the Allies were, the European ones especially. But hey, Americans too. Look what's happening right now. And this is the end of 2024 when I'm recording this video. So this was just an example of the cynicism they were using to produce an outcome in their favor under the guise of helping the poor thing. And I would just wonder, you think about how many people are getting enriched right now in the war in Ukraine as well. There are very disturbing parallels between those two, 80 years apart, right? But there should be no disturbing parallels right now between what's happening here, this YouTube video, and you moving your finger or your mouse over to click subscribe and click the bell to notify you when I drop a new video, because that's what we do. That's what etiquette is. Have the decency to subscribe to someone who's pumping out good content so you can help me, this guy, grow my channel. Thanks. On February 5th, 1940, um, U-boat U-41 was sunk by a British destroyer, Antelope. Um, and then you think to yourself, okay, Don, I'm sure that that happened hundreds of times in the war. Why do I care about some lone German U-boat being sunk by a destroyer, a British destroyer? Well, it's a trivia thing, right? And I've talked about this in previous videos. If I ever put together a World War II Trivial Pursuit game, things like this are going to be questions in that. Because why was this important? Because it was the first time that a British destroyer had sunk a German U-boat on its own, okay, with no help from another destroyer or any other. It was just mano a mano, British destroyer against a U-boat, and the this time the destroyer won. It's notable because it was the first, right? Your first time is always notable unless you were drunk and don't remember anything. Did I just say that out loud? Anyway, so the captain of the destroyer Antelope, Lieutenant Commander Richard Taylor White, received a DSO award for his heroism and his crew's heroism there. Um, what's also heroic, it's not quite the level of destroying a German U-boat on your own, but for me, it's almost as heroic as when, if you like this video, click the thumbs up sign below the video screen and leave a comment because you're going to heroically, uh, show the YouTube algorithm that this content's worth showing, putting in front of other people's feeds, and that's going to help me grow. Thanks. I don't know if you know or not, but a couple days ago in a previous videos, I had talked about the fact that the British general who was commanding the armored forces in uh, Libya. He was chasing the Italians back from Italy, excuse me, not Italy, Egypt, and in deep into Libya. That he had given permission for the 7th Armored Division to flank the retreating Italians and to be able to stop their retreat. Well, on today's date, February 5th, 1941, after crossing 150 miles of desert in only 30 hours, British armored cars were able to set up roadblocks at Sidi Saleh, south of Benghazi, Libya, and they made it just in time to stop the leading elements of the retreating Italians, the Italian 10th Army. And let me tell you something. That was a feat in and of itself because you have to be really good to outflank the Italians because they ran fast. Okay. And so, and also, the Fourth Armored Division knew that if they couldn't go west anymore, they might go east. And so they were able to set up roadblocks at Betafam, which is about 10 miles north of the roadblocks to prevent the Italians from retreating there. So they had the Italians boxed in and they took a poop load of prisoners. Okay. And on February 5th, 1943, Major General Alexander Vandegrift, who commanded the 1st Marine Division in Guadalcanal and who arguably fought the most famous and most important land battle against the Japanese in the entire Pacific theater. Of course, you've been following my videos, that the 1st Marine Division had been evacuated from Guadalcanal late in 42. They went to Australia to rest and recuperate because they were in bad shape. And then Vandegrift eventually was called back to Washington, and on today's date, uh, FDR decorated him with the Medal of Honor. And I would say of all the generals out there that may have gotten a Medal of Honor, including MacArthur, that didn't necessarily deserve it, this guy deserved it. Okay, and on February 5th, 1944 the USS Narwhal, which was like a specialty submarine that was built to be more of a supply ship as opposed to an attack submarine. It landed 45 tons of ammunition and cargo in the Philippines to support Filipino resistance and guerrilla operations. It took us a while to get to that point where we could do that, but this was all because of a relatively unknown general. He wasn't even really a general. He was actually like I don't know, lieutenant colonel or something. But he did not surrender to the Japanese when they conquered the Philippines, and the General Wainwright had issued a Philippines-wide order to surrender. He did not surrender, and he started his own independent resistance movement, guerrilla operation in Mindanao, the southernmost island of the Philippines. And for a while, MacArthur's staff did not believe that he was real. They thought he might have been a Japanese false flag operation. Then they thought maybe he would have been crazy, but he was smart enough to know that the Filipinos would not rally to a lieutenant colonel. So he pronounced himself to be a general, and he did a hell of a job starting an organic resistance operation in the Philippines. Once the MacArthur staff finally realized, okay, this guy is the goods, then they started supplying him. It's unfortunate it took until February of 1944 to do so, but he did. And so now they started sending regular supplies to the Filipinos, and they helped out a lot. Much like the French resistance movement, the French resistance groups in France, they really helped the American armies that swept out of the hedgerows and into France proper, guarding their flanks. The Filipinos did the same thing in attacking and destroying Japanese. So it was a really good move on their part. And finally, keeping with the Filipino theme, on February 5th, 1945, the Americans, mostly American civilians who were not able to get out of the Philippines when the Japanese had attacked in 42 and 40, 41, they had been interned, otherwise kept in captivity in horrible conditions by the Japanese in Manila. The American troops who were fighting the Japanese inside Manila, they were able to get to the university. They were being held at Santo Tomas University internment camp in Manila, and they were liberated. And I'm sure there was much rejoicing. So thank you very much for watching this video. I love doing them, and I can't wait to get you one for tomorrow.